Hello and welcome to my vlog, and today we're going to be talking about Thor the Dark World. I believe it's from 2014. Okay, so in my last review of Thor, I talked about how this is not one of my favorite movies of the Thor franchise. It's actually one of my movies that I hated the most out of the whole MCU for a while, and then Doctor Strange came out. So, like, why am I wearing this hood? Okay, it's like actually a cloak. It's a cloak. I'm wearing it to talk about the tragedy, the hardship that was born out of this movie. Okay, so like I have to say I had a really hard time rewatching it because I knew what was coming. I knew Frigga was going to die. I knew Jane was going to be unconscious for most of the movie. I knew Darcy was going to be stuck on Earth and not in Asgard like she should be. And just going into this movie with all those expectations, it's like it was really hard to appreciate that was Chris Eccleston in the dark elf makeup and stuff. And like, I love Chris Eccleston. He's a really great doctor for Doctor Who, but I just feel like he was wasted in this movie because it didn't know what it wanted to do. I feel like I know that there was some stuff that was cut out of it, and I haven't delved into to remember what was cut out of it, but I feel like they really missed their chance to make Jane a more dynamic character by harnessing the stone, because she's one of the only people that survived holding an infinity stone in her body, you know? She was melded with that thing. Why? And they never addressed that, and I hope they'll address it in Thor: Love and Thunder. But it was just really frustrating because I love Jane so much. And but actually, okay, so I wish I had a teacup so I could spill some tea, but now I'm going to get into why Thor the Dark World was one of the darkest periods for me in the MCU fandom. Okay, so story time. I used to follow this pretty big Thor Loki fangirl. I didn't know she was a Thorky fangirl, and I kind of back then it seemed like everyone was part of Loki's army, but I just whatever. I didn't care. I just followed her because everybody followed her. She was a big name fan, and I remember this one time. God, I can't remember what year it was, but she wrote a Thorky fic, and it was. Her justification was that because she was writing them as completely different out of MCU characterizations, they were completely OOC, out of character. And there was, I'm not going to specify too much of the story, but it was, and I actually read it because I did follow her and I wanted to see what all the hype was. And I was like, well, at least this one isn't Squicky and they're not related in this one. Even if they are just adopted in the main canon. So I read it and I was like, okay, I guess. So I kind of can see it, but you literally couldn't have just made these your own OCs and original characters and just completely written something on your own and tried to I would have felt more comfortable if she'd done that, to be honest. And yes, a lot of people are no, a lot of fan fiction is turning into serious books and stuff, and that needs to stop. And honestly, I don't see the point of even arguing with that. So much stuff is fan fiction, and the Shadowhunters is fan fiction, came from a fan fiction author. The 50 Shades of Grey is fan fiction. God, I think honestly, I kind of want to say that is Twilight fan fiction. I'm not sure. Anyways, I thought I had seen that somewhere, but like, there's just so much stuff out there that is fan fiction nowadays, and like, you can't really stop it. I just, why does it have to go back to like incesty type, like pairings? It's just so frustrating. It's just gross. But anyways, okay, so like, I'm not going to go into like too much, but like, one of the things about this big name fan, but like, one of the things that also pisses me off about the Loki army was like, there was this movement to say that because Loki is actually a ice giant and he's blue, you know, that he counts as a person of color and that he's POC representation for people of color. And I'm like, no, he's not. He completely passes as white. He only turns blue when somebody blue touches him. And like, he can turn blue, but he just doesn't choose to. So it was very, and I tried not to get into arguments with people about this because I had bigger fish to fry. I had to deal with a lot of, I wasn't really on the anti-racism aspect of it. I know I've mentioned some of my blogs before. MCU fandom hates people of color, and fandoms hate people of color. But at the moment, back then, when this movie came out, I didn't have those blogs yet. And so like, this whole movement about like considering Loki as a person of color, it just kind of rang false to me. And I just, I didn't have the spoons. I didn't have the wherewithal to like fight it. I just did not like it. And like, I think there's some really interesting stuff they did with Frigga's fight scene. I wish we had seen more of that. And I just wish she hadn't died yet, to be honest. But they always have to go and fridge the woman, the mom. It's just so frustrating. And like, if you want to know more about women in refrigerators, I'm going to include a link down there in the description. And yeah, it was just very frustrating. And like, overall, it wasn't like okay, so like, when Loki is on the throne and he's and Thor is leaving and he's like, I don't want this. I just want to be myself, I guess he says. I don't know what he says. I forgot. But like, I love that scene where he goes and meets up with Jane, but unfortunately we know he doesn't stay with Jane. So that was frustrating. And like, I do, like, some people are like so quick to say that Loki isn't really a villain. He isn't really that bad. And like, I have to differ. I beg to differ, because I just, like, because he was trying to get his brother, okay, there's a whole genocide thing. He tried to rule Earth, Midgard, right, in Avengers. And then, like, so that's like a big no-no. And then he was controlling people, or maybe, like, some people, I've seen some fan theories say that maybe he was under the control of that one blue thing. I can't remember what it's called. But, like, maybe he was under control of that, because I haven't rewatched Avengers lately. But, like, maybe he was under control of that. And, like, okay, I guess. But he didn't have to, like, fake his death. He just didn't want to, like, deal with the consequences of his actions. He just wanted to go and find power somewhere else. So like, I kind of think he went looking for that, which is not victim blaming if you're talking about a genocidal maniac. Okay, it's not victim blaming. And so, yeah, just like, and I'm saying that as somebody who actually really loves Tom Hiddleston and Loki in particular. But, yeah, this movie was a chore to get through, and it's already 10 minutes, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut it off. I will say it has some awesome fighting by, Idris Elba as Heimdall. And I was impressed that, we got to see some of the other worlds in the Nine Realms. And, I kind of wish we'd spent more time on those worlds, because I feel like we had a lot to learn. And, yeah, just the whole Thorky phase just, was such a bummer to me. Because, like, there was so much drama. But, like, I will say one more thing about that one girl that was a big name fan. Okay, so she, like, a lot of people don't realize this, but, like, she was such a big name fan that when, oh God, what was his name? Eric? Do you remember the black man that was killed by cops that they literally suffocated him? Like, he was just selling Lucy's in front of a store. And, like, they said that he was refusing to cooperate, and they literally, like, choked him to death. Eric Garner? I think that was him. Eric Garner. Okay, so the reason I bring this up is because this big name fan, I saw it with my own two eyes, was saying his weight crushed him. And, of course, she was white. And, of course, she was very privileged, tall, thin, and, like, a big name fan, right? And she had even gotten money from her fanfics and stuff. And so she had, like, a lot of followers. Like, I have no idea how many followers at the time. But I saw with my own two eyes when somebody called her out on it and was like, hello, you need to maybe take that back, because it was not Eric Garner's weight that killed him. It was the actual police officers that were choking him and that were squishing him, because there was, like, several police officers on him at the time. And, like, that was literally what killed him. They squished him to death and they chokeholded him. They had him in a chokehold. And I know you're probably thinking, well, what does this have to do with Thor? And I'm like, okay, but, like, she was a big name fan because of Thor, because she was a big name Loki fan, big name Thor fan, big name fan in general. Like, a lot of people followed her back then on Tumblr. And it's like, I don't know what happened to her. I don't really care. I just remember thinking, like, being so grossed out with, like, Black Lives Matter was getting all these white people saying, well, those black people deserve to die. And I'm like, excuse me? Excuse me? This is, you're just white supremacists is basically my deal. And, like, I hate that white supremacists have appropriated Norse mythology, and, like, there's, like, you have to be careful, because there's a lot of white supremacy in, like, they'll like the whole Vikings fandom and stuff. Like, no, I'm not saying everybody. I'm just saying that there are some people that are white supremacists that have happened to appropriate Norse mythology and stuff, and they'll be like, oh, well, it's my culture because I'm white. I'm like, aren't you Italian? But, like, it's not really your culture anyways. So yeah, like, that's the kind of stuff that you had to deal with during the Thor to the Dark World. So it was, like, just a very dark period in fandom. People claiming Loki was a person of color and writing long metas about that, and then, like, basically hating on Jane Foster, and, like, just in general, like, it was a tough time to be a fan. And, like, there wasn't, I mean, we only had, the only superheroine that we had back then was Black Widow. And she didn't even get her own movie until after she died. So, like, but now we have Captain Marvel, we have Ms. Marvel, we have Shuri's gonna be the next Black Panther. So I'm like, I'm happy for all that stuff, but a lot of people are talking about like the flop era, and I should probably just make a whole video about that. Okay, I'm gonna talk about the flop era next. Eventually, I don't know when this is gonna go up, but yeah, I will talk about it. What it is and why you should care. All right, bye.